Today I'm going to show you how to print a basic leaf shape that is on a Styrofoam printing block or Styrofoam matrix. The first thing I need to do is get a brayer and spread the ink in a tray. And I'm not using all the ink. I'm actually going to push some of that ink up there. And I'm just using a little bit of the ink. If you use too much ink, it's going to fill in the indentation and you're not going to get a clean print. So I'm just using some of the ink and I want to roll and spread it until I hear a very quiet, almost like a hiss or a crackle noise. So let's see if the video will pick it up. It might not. There it is. I can hear the hiss. And you'll also see that the ink almost looks sticky. Like you can see the ink just sort of puckering up on the tray. Now I'm going to ink my entire Styrofoam plate. That's not covering it very well. Often the very first print you do is not going to come out that good, and that's okay, because you can always make multiple prints. Want to make sure I do cover that print, but that I can see the indentation of my pen or pencil mark where the leaf shape is. I want to carefully make sure everything is filled. Be careful when you're holding this. Make sure you ink everything. And then there are different ways to add the paper. I like just to add it on top of my print, but some people might lift up the matrix and put it on a piece of paper. I like to do it this way. Just very carefully put the paper on top, and then I'm gently gonna press. There are printmaking tools called barons that you can use to press your paper into the ink. Some people use wooden spoons to do that, but if your paper is thinner like this one, you can start to see where the ink is transferring to the paper, and then you can do a check to see is it fully transferring or not. Did a pretty good job. It's not perfect, but pretty good. I'm just gonna press down a little bit more. And again, the first print often doesn't come out as well as your other prints. You might need to do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 prints before you start to get good ones. So I'd say that one is pretty good. Not perfect, but pretty darn good. Now I'm going to show you how to do a print that is too light. You don't want to do this. So this would not be good printing. So the ink is starting to dry up a little. So your print is going to come out too light if your ink has already started to dry on the ink tray or on the brayer, or if you just don't put enough ink on the Styrofoam matrix. Sometimes your print will come out too light if you don't press down enough or if you just put down the paper. So I'm just going to do a quick press so I can show you. Oh, much too light, much too light. I'm going to press down a little harder. Maybe the problem was I didn't press down enough. No, it's still too light. So this is telling me, because I know I pressed down hard enough, this is telling me I didn't use enough ink, or the ink in my tray was starting to dry up. And you'll start to see the ink won't be as shiny if it starts to dry up. So in that case, you need to get more ink. So you have nice dark ink, and again, listen for the hiss. It's like a crackling hiss. Now I'm gonna show you what happens if you use too much ink. So again, this was not enough. This was almost the perfect amount of ink, because you had a nice filled in background, nice clear, crisp white line. So if I use too much ink, what's going to happen is the ink is going to fill in where that white line should be. So again, I didn't wait and listen for the hiss. I'm just sticking this in. This is not how you should do it. This is me showing you the wrong way to ink a plate. And I didn't smooth this. So now I'm going to take the paper and show you what happens if you use too much ink. So I'm pressing down to transfer my print. Uh-oh, you can see much too much ink. See, too much ink filled in the part of the styrofoam matrix where it should have been a white line. So this is telling me I used too much ink. When this happens, you might need to bring your matrix to the sink and wash it. Use a sponge or a rag so you can get all that ink out of there. You don't want ink in that crevice. And then you're going to have to hand dry it with some paper towel until it's fully dry before you can start printing again. So again, this is how your print should look. Nice, consistent amount of ink coverage, clear lines. This was the example of when I did not use enough ink or the ink started to dry out on the ink tray. And this is an example of much too much ink and not being careful. This often happens when I see kids talking and they're not paying attention to how much ink they're putting down.